brushes that you've all been asking me about. I've finally released them. I've been working on them for so long. They've just been hidden away, and I use them in my painter. If you guys come to my streams, when I'm just painting personal stuff, I use them. But I haven't really released them because they're always in the works. They always are too gritty or too soft, and eventually they just balanced out to this perfect consistency. And I think that there was a little bit of me being a little bit selfish and not wanting to share them because they're just so personal. They've been around with me for so long. But I know I have courage now to share them and my design power behind them. I feel like they will really work amazingly for that first 45 hour of the painting process. So if you guys want a copy of my brushes, you can go to istebrak.com and just go to the store. And I have a video that I posted on YouTube that you guys can watch. Just have to visit the selfie store, and everything else is available to you there. They're $12. I didn't want to overprice them and I didn't want to underprice them. They mean so much to me, and to me they mean even more than this. They cost even more because they've just been around for so long and I've coveted them for so long. But yeah, I feel like I should sell them at a fair price. It keeps the classes running, keeps all those servers running, but also doesn't cost you guys too much because I know not a lot of you have so much. And I've looked up some prices for some brushes, for the personal brushes, personal painterly brushes that other artists have developed, and you get like 10 for like $45, or you get the same amount, which is 5 is typically the golden number for painterly brushes. It's just like 5 core brushes. You get those for $20. So I just thought, let me just go lower than everyone else and just make sure that I'm keeping it fair for myself and for you guys. So if you guys want a copy of my brushes, they're now available, and I just linked them. I hope you guys like them. And I hope you guys kind of just get out of them what I got out of them. And they're just so pretty. They're all around pretty brushes, especially that first one, which drives me crazy. I love setting down the core lights and the core shadows and doing form studies with that first one. It's just so fun because it's like you don't have to treat the face as a label, and then the brush itself is so much fun to paint with. It feels like you're painting with a dry bristle oil painting brush. That's just a little bit of paint on it, and the harder you press, the more paint you get off the sides of the brush. That's exactly what I was going for. I think you shouldn't have any problems with them transferring them into CS6. They should work just fine. I tested it in another computer, so it should work just fine. Um, yeah. Thank you for all those who've bought them. You guys are awesome. Yeah, the face was the painting I painted that one time. So let's get started. So welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. And I wanted to look at this, and I wanted to open up Portrait Studio, and I want to talk about. I really want to emit this forever from your minds. This shadow on either side of the nose. Who here does the shadow on either side of the? I can't focus with this AC on. Who here does this shadow on the side of the nose? It's overrated, the shadow on the side of the nose. It really is. Reason being, when we have a light source coming down, so let's try to make this light source a little bit more extreme. Something like that. This value here will never ever ever share the same value as either side of the nose, simply because this is a deeper depression than the side of the nose. So if we're painting the side of the nose and we overdo the shadow and over define the sides of the nose, what we're essentially saying, and then we're using the same shadows as the eye socket, what we're essentially saying is that this is an entire trench. So because it reads so quickly as a sudden drop, and because it doesn't matter what reference you're using, it all relates back to sorry, I was messing around with my brushes. Um, it all relates back to which value you've already used. So looking at the shadow under her nose. So this is without any diffuse. It's just a dark room. So let's darken the room a little bit more. And this is typically what it would look like if you were outside standing under a lamp at night, or if you were in your room and you had one light overhead, just one small dim light, or by a candle. If it was tilted just a little bit, or a flame, it would constantly move around though. Um, but this is typically the kind of light that you would have in a dark room, one light only. It's not a really strong universal light source that lightens the room and has ambience. So, in saying that, it doesn't matter which of these situations you're in, this value never shares the same as these values. The shadow that sits under the nose is one massive, important, massive, massive shadow you cannot ignore because the nose from the side has an elevation to it. The sides of the nose connect. There's no seamlessness. It's seamlessly connected on screen. There's no stacking. There's nothing massive about this altitude, but they do fall off of the highest altitude of the face, which is the nose. Again, looking from the side, we see that the nose is the highest altitude a long ways down before it shrinks in altitude, before it matches or levels off with everything else in the face. So what does all that mean? It means we cannot possibly share the values of something that is high with something that is low. We cannot share the values of something that stares directly at the light source with something that looks halfway on the light source. These are the simple fundamentals. This is where the fundamentals are, where the fundamentals sit in our work. And despite the fact that we have a reference, we can still make these choices here and still just change all of these value issues just by making sure we're not sharing value words. So the sides of this nose cannot have, just doing that is kind of fixing it, cannot have the same shade as these values here. Also, when you do paint, try to paint the background in, because you do have to throw in a shadow now. And I prefer you threw the shadow in. So now the nose feels flat, right? You're probably saying, okay, the nose feels flat. Well, your line dependency led you to making this mistake. So your line dependency, you're going to have to nix it. And once that's gone, all that's left is what happens when an object gets closer to the light than everything else. It doesn't get darker, it gets lighter. So we throw in a beam of light on the bridge of the nose. That's what makes the nose feel like it's gotten closer to the light source. Look at that massive flooding of light. This is how this computer program, and the way we've programmed light and form into it, it also reads this as an area that deserves a lot of light source because it is pointing directly at the light. It is looking like a solar panel pointed directly at the sun. That's what you should think the nose to be, a solar panel. Alright, everybody write that back to me. So the nose is a solar panel. The nose is tilted up at the light like a solar panel. So when you are shading it, don't forget that the beam of light really is what makes it feel like it's part of a light environment. It's not the shadow on either side. Don't depend on this. Don't be lazy and just throw this in and hey, say, why isn't this working? Blah, blah, blah. It's not working. What do I do? Well, I'm telling you what to do, and this is what you should always do. Never settle for the shadow first. Always see what you can do with the light source. Okay, so I'm going to recommend a more angular nose. This nose seems very fake. I mean, I've seen noses just like this, but only post-surgery. Like noses don't really come in this shape. I mean, they do, but it's not ideal. The septum tends to point down just a little bit. The septum meaning that little space in between the nostrils, right along here. This tends to point down, and the nostrils this one's pretty good that you have here. And the nostrils tend to point up just a little bit. Okay, these tend to point down too. So a little bit more angular, a little bit more aerodynamic, I guess. Less Barbie-ish. I'm not even sure if that's a term. I know it's not a term. Alright. So what about the skin tones that you chose? I can't over-render this. It's also really low res. But the skin tones that you chose are a little bit peachy. I would shift them just towards the reds just a little bit, just off the bat, and then when we get towards the sunlight, anywhere that gets closer to the sun gets a little bit more orange. So I'm going to get a color layer, and I'm going to get that orange. And only the lit areas I warm up. So technically, for skin tone, you always want to make the skin just a little bit cooler around the shadows. And not cooler by bringing in a blue and getting like an AC coolant and just spraying it on your monitor because it's blue and it's an AC coolant, and the concept artist that designed the label for the AC coolant threw in a blue with some ice. No, you cool it off because it's an organic substance. Organic substances don't turn blue until they're dead. You pretty much just want to use pinks, anything related to blood, anything related to warmth, but can also stick to cool. Really, there's only one color that can do that, which is a red. Red stays cool, but also stays very, very warm at the same time. So once you start understanding these specific behaviors of light sources and colors, it'd be a realistic skin type will be a lot more like you'll follow it instinctively. You'll feel like it's just a little too peachy for me, and you'll naturally just draw towards or draw from the reds in the skin tone. It really took me a lot of eyeballing. I learned it on my own, sort of. I mean, there was no tutorial back then telling you to use some reds in the shadows. Sure as hell, there was nothing like that out there. They did say use purples. They did say get an actual purple and throw it in there. And it always looked really, really wrong because I always ended up getting a gray. But until I realized that, there was a little bit too much peach all around. It just looked like a person was made of peaches. So another big thing that you shouldn't forget. So do not throw shadows on either side of the nose. Keep it generally lighter, and of course it cannot share the same value as the shadow that looks down. Make sure that you are replacing that shadow, those shadows on either side of the nose, with a highlight beam running across the top of the nose bridge. You can throw little relief points like that, just across, just like this. But actually, I'm going to use one of my brushes. I really love this brush. And but on either side, so lastly, in addition to all of those points, you have to remember that the nose has to be perfectly sharp. So this is why I love this brush, because it's just got all this sharpness in it. You really can make massive, like really, really unforgiving edges with it. And I'm just going to throw those edges there. So don't forget the edges. Don't forget that the shadow on either side of the nose is just overkill. And replace those highlights of the beam. Make sure this shadow here has a cutoff point. Don't over soften, because then it tends to look a little bit wonky. Oh, and make sure that there's redness. More redness than there is peachiness. The only time we get peachiness is when we're painting an olive skin type, so like a Middle Eastern type of skin tone. And when that happens, it's really no longer about reds. It's more about grays and tan colors. There's not much reds in the shadows because the person is so dark, but not that dark that they're reflecting the cools around. Skin is very tricky. I can't really blame you guys if you have trouble with it. So I'm throwing in the secondary light source just as a final form signature, which is just to make sure that the upper lip casts the light back up and diffuses that shadow under the nose. And then I'm going to get my soft brush. Sorry I'm using a soft brush all the time. It's just, it does things very, very fast. I need that. Alright, so this value here isn't the same as this one. I'm going to just desaturate under this whole area. Desaturate the nostrils. It's too desaturated. It is still cool, but it's just a little less saturated than areas that the light touches. And that combined with the rest of the skin that you might paint, it's pretty good nose. Those are the main pointers that you have to remember. The edge signatures, the light on the bridge of the nose, the sharp edges of the shadows, and the sharp edges of the form of the nostrils, and everywhere else. So before, do you see that shadow really serves no purpose? And when we see it in our work, we have to realize at this point I'm throwing this kind of shadow. So basically you're throwing this, technically you're using this value word on this area. That's impossible. There's no way that can happen unless the light was coming from the bottom. Oh, no, wrong direction. Unless the light was coming from the bottom. That's the only time when these areas would be illuminated. They never share the same kind of light. They don't share the same planes. So they never share the same kind of light. Okay? So let's see what everyone's saying. What's better to use when painting most of the time? Definitely a hard brush. Definitely something that is a beautiful balance between textured and soft. Something blendable. and something that'll get you a nice hard edge. Something that is maybe soft everywhere else, but it's got that nice sharp edge on the sides of it. That is definitely yeah, that's definitely what you want to look for in a paintbrush. Soft brush offers all soft, no edges, very blendable. Hard brush offers all dark, I mean all hard edges, not so blendable. You're going to have to find a balance for both. And painterly brushes is pretty much what you want to look for. That's the key word that you want to um, do on your Google searches. But I don't mean to plug, but I just released brushes that have a great balance of both that I use myself and that are approved by me. Istebrak, if a blue cloth is exposed to yellow light, will it turn green or will it become cyan? It will have, the yellow will sit at the tops. It's really very tricky when it comes to blue cloth. It depends on the kind of blue cloth. So blue silk will have, good question, blue silk will have more of a reflectivity to it. So it'll show a lot less green. I mean, it'll show a lot less blue and a lot more of the color of the light source. So this right here, if I was choosing this color, I wouldn't just get the mid-tone and then raise this value up towards the white. I would include a cyan in it because this looks green. This whole beam area, I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but to the trained eye, this is definitely has greens in it. This area right here. Sharper areas, the very tops, have that pale white to them that comes from the light source. But if we're looking at something like this, it doesn't look like silk. It looks like some sort of I don't know, like cotton or like canvas kind of fabric. I don't know, like the kind of fabric Aragorn would wear, really weathered. So this definitely I would use paler hues on it. I wouldn't even saturate it. I would make it so that the fabric is so deep that it doesn't even saturate by the light source, or it's dirty, or it's got dirt on the top of it. Over here, this is definite greens in here. There's a definite green leaning build, but this is a kind of like a turquoise, pale turquoise blue. This is purple in the shadows and yellow in the light sources. It really just depends on the kind of fabric that you're using. All of these are silk because I searched up silk, but I'm trying to find one that's a little below silk. This is a beautiful fabric right here as well. And this is all very pale. It goes through the whites before it goes through the yellows if it's not reflective. If it's reflective, add the yellows. If it's not, that's the rule of thumb, don't add the yellows. Okay. So I hope this helped for the nostril. Let me just sharpen. I use this unsharp. I don't know if I've explained this at all, but I use this unsharp mask feature, which gets me the details back that I kind of just gives you contrast around the edges, just so that you don't get that soft fuzzy look all the time. With me, if I'm using the soft brush, unfortunately I get that edge all the time when teaching. Okay, so many stuff, just different variety all around. Okay, this one. I know it's really random, but let's talk about depth. Right here, you frame the canvas with a dark that sits in the foreground. This is the biggest no-no. This is way too close. They're neighboring. And the reason why this is a problem is because to the camera, you've told the camera there is darkness. It feels like this is the kind of light I'd see if there was Still, you don't see this. I mean, if there was a lightning bolt going through a dark night sky and no light pollution, just that lightning bolt, at that point, maybe this might happen, but we never share value words between distances. We don't share value words between cavities and depressions, and we never share value words between distances. Write that back to me if you can. So that means that this value here has to be lightened, and this value here has to be darkened. And this whole colossal man right here, that handsome guy that made me look twice, alright, he needs to get thrown back into the distance. And how do we do that? We do that by sharing values. So we have to make sure that he belongs in his light environment, his neighbor of the light environment. Light environment is one big country, and different units neighboring in those areas share the same degrees of the light, or share the same rules, the local rules of the light. So he has to follow his local rules, his local light source. This is going to look really weird because I can't really lasso around the whole thing. But give me a minute. Let me see if I can put in the effort. Come on, come on. Okay. I am the lasso queen. Look at this. This is perfection. Oh yeah. Seamlessness. It's like a car commercial. Audi car commercial. What am I talking about? Yo, Canadians are crazy drivers, okay? I recently went to Canada. I drove up there. They are just maniacs. They're just maniacs, man. Everyone's got a BMW. And what is it with BMWs? Don't they know how to signal? Like, why? If you own a BMW and you're watching and you don't signal when you turn, I don't like you. I'm joking. But still, I'm not joking. I don't like you. Please signal. Please, it saves lives. It's just as important as a seatbelt. And it saves you my wrath while driving. Because I will beep. Yes, I'm a beeper. For those watching, I beep. So many times this person just nearly, oh my god, this one time it's on the highway and we're driving 120, which is like 70 or 80 miles an hour. That's the speed of the road, but it's on the fast lane. And this guy just decided to, while he was curving, so a massive curve in the highway, he just decided to go into my lane and just take up all the extra space I had in my lane and kind of freak the crap out of all of us. And we're just like, what the fuck are you doing? How are you doing this? Don't you know how to run across a massive highway curve? How do you do that? How do you, when you drive and you just don't, you don't notice the other car beside you? And guess what? It was a van. Van drivers are the worst ever. Alright, so I'm done talking. So see here what happened? Suddenly he's in the distance. Suddenly he's in the sky. We can't make it all act like this because there is a variation here. This head isn't the same distance from the camera as his butt. His butt is closer to us than his head is. So it means his butt has to be just a little bit darker because it's a little bit closer to the foreground. So I just have to do that. I have to darken this lower half just a little bit more and show that this area here in the distance is... Alright, this image is way too big. Image size. Oh my lord. 10,000. There are some mad drivers. Yes, there are. And if you go on the highways in Canada, you'll find them. Alright. So now he really feels like he's in the distance. I do recommend that you kind of tilt him down, have some 3-point perspective happening. It feels like he's standing beside the hill but also bending forward just a little bit, which kind of seems like a pointless, kind of awkward position. I would just tilt him down as if we are looking up at him. He's that colossal. So where I've seen that, Feng Hua's song, I think his name is. These holy names. So where is it? Where is the elephant? Come on, come on. This guy's friggin' amazing. So just search him up and just die a little bit inside. It's okay, it won't hurt you. But he uses this trick on one of his most famous paintings. Elephant. Okay, come on. Yes. And right here, this value word is this value distance is very different from this one. So this one gets very washed out, very pale. His ability to render is just, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, love me for it. I'm sorry, alright? There's a reason everything is made in China. So just take a moment and think about what I'm saying. His rendering level is Asian, alright? Don't hate. Take a moment. Breathe, and just think about it. His rendering level, that's just off the charts skill right there. And I can only say his rendering level is Asian. It's so good. It's so good. So here you go. Cry a little bit inside. I'm going to just link it. I cannot believe how he's managed to, like, even the detail level, this is more clustered in detail than it is out here. Um, and it's just a perfection. I've drooled over this in stream another time before, but yeah, the contrast distance and the contrast change and the 3 point perspective happening on his head, so we don't see his neck because of the stacking in the distance. That's something that you might want to use as well. Russians are really good too. I know, it's just like over there, No wonder the Russians were competing with the Americans, to get into space because they're all just fucking scary. They're all scary skilled. And the Chinese also were competing at one point in the Cold War, so I don't know, dude. It's just, why is it called rendering and not shading? Rendering is like shading is choosing the right values, but rendering is being able to saturate, no, no, wrong word is correct, is being able to cluster the detail in such a way that it actually looks complete. You've actually completed the detail. You've formed great detail on a really, really, really small level, I mean, small size brush on a really intimate level. You've managed to create a readable texture and a readable detail, and you've it just clusters right. It feels right as it would in a photograph. We get the right amount of information in the right spots. That's what it really means by rendering, along a composition anyway. So before, way too dark. After, it's not a fog, it's the distance factor that's making this work. You can darken it just a little bit more, but if whatever choice you make it this color or make it this shade, they simply cannot shade, or this shade, they simply cannot be shaded in the same, with the same values. The foreground just has to be darker, and I would do something like this. Um, if he is on like casting a spell, I'm sure there's to be some kind of surface disturbance as well, like humidity or fog or something like that. But beautiful piece all around. The gesture's gorgeous. I love what you're doing with it. Try not to have such a cartoony silhouette. Try to have something that's a little bit more realistic. Like, when someone thinks Spellmaster, they probably also draw something like, like that, right? So try not to think so minions. Try to draw something that's a little bit more detailed. So break up the silhouette here. So maybe show where the legs are, show like some actual patterns that happen in fabric and drapery in the wind. Show where the legs are, maybe some broader shoulders. The neckline wouldn't be so large. Make something a little bit more realistic. Maybe he's haunched. Generally a more realistic gesture and more realistic fabric movement and a much lighter background. Stay away from these cliche symbols because this right here is the symbol of a mage or a magician in our mind. Really it is. Actually, it's replaced by this kind of hat for me. I don't know what the fuck that is. And maybe like a star at the top of it and a wand that looks like this. Alright, and then you can just give him an old beard or whatever, but this is typically, and I have to fight this when I'm painting. I actually once did draw a wizard with a pointed hat. I realized that I've been drawing out of my adolescent visual library the whole time, and it was kind of, it's fun if you can pull it off and make it realistic, but, right here, okay. So that's basically my suggestions for this. I really don't have time to go through every single issue, but if you fix those, it definitely will be improved in a lot of levels. This piece right here, the foreground simply isn't dark enough. This is a silhouette state. Also, you have a horizontal canvas, and this moon is just attracting all my attention. So you're gonna have to put the moon behind him, or put him a little bit, put him a little bit closer to the moon if you want to keep the canvas width. So either put the moon behind him and then cut the canvas off and have this silhouette. I think you should shrink the moon size, definitely. The moon is just hogging a lot of space, so it's almost taking up as much space as him. When we think about how much an object takes space in a composition, what we're really saying is, come on. What we're really saying is border to border, how much space is this taking up? Alright, so just like that. This is taking up a lot of space, and this is nearly taking up almost as much space. Not just that, it's extremely bright, it has a lot of contrast. It's also near an object almost as dark as it is light. So at this point, Deadpool, I just have to look really hard. I thought it was Daredevil for a second, but it is Deadpool, and it's simply because my eyes were just distracted. I want that read to happen instantly. Also, I'm not that very educated in comic book heroes, so there's that problem. We're gonna have to deal with idiots like me. So, in order to make sure you're guiding your possibly idiotic viewer, you have to point the eyes exactly where they have to go. So, for me, I would love to have some indicator who was the most important in the canvas. So for me, I need to have him have the brightest points and the darkest points. So let me see if I can do this. So what's everyone saying? Yeah, it's almost like a sun, exactly. And it's just demanding so much attention in the canvas. If you're a good photographer, don't photograph the sun. Try to get the sun out of the picture. It'll always flood the camera. It'll always take attention away. It's just one big diva. Um, think of the sun as a Kardashian. Actually, never mind. Actually, no. Actually, I would never insult nature like that. What am I saying? Just think of the sun as just a big diva, okay? It likes to be photographed. No one wants to photograph it. No one's strong enough. Alright, so let me just get this lasso going. I'm so sorry. I don't have any more traffic stories to get you through the lasso. So just bear with me. La la la. Okay. I think we should all aspire to have Asian level rendering capacity. It's just they're just like another breed of human. They're so talented. No matter what they touch, it just comes to life. I don't know what it is. It's just perfect. Everything they touch. So I'm gonna darken and desaturate. It's okay. This is getting darker. It shouldn't be, but only because of the lasso. I still need this darkened. So it's gonna be one big movement. And then we've got saturation. I need to saturate him because he needs to be the attention. Also, his suit is pretty shiny, so it's gonna have that. Actually, let me go backward. It's gonna have that shine, that reflectivity that we need to see in this light source situation. So again, is this 10,000 by 10,000? What are you guys doing to me? Okay, and then the moon, I'm gonna do something really tricky with the moon. Alright, so turn that off. I'm gonna shrink it and put it behind him just a little bit, just to make that, we can't have a silhouette situation without actually having the silhouette happen the way it happens technically. So, oh, I don't think I can get away with this. So if I darken him just a little bit more, no, that's not how we do it. Alright, so I'm gonna push this here. It's radiation. I'm gonna just make it a little more dim. And then I'm gonna dim the sides. So this is all stuff that will be very easy for you if you have layers. So just go ahead and do those layers. And I would just just exactly like this, I would set up the canvas. I would shrink the canvas just a little bit height-wise. I don't know what that is. Oh my god, so much telemarketing. It's just driving me crazy. So he's a little bit darker now, and we have to get rid of the contrast happening in the back and replace it, or at least share it with him. Alright, so I'm going to make his eyes way more bright. I'm going to throw some specular lights here. And because I want to lead the eyes toward the object, the point of interest, I'm going to illuminate his swords to catch some of that light behind him. What's with all the telemarketing, man? Alright. And then his hair, not his hair, his hood. His hair. He doesn't get to have hair. Alright. That also gets a little shiny. I'm just using dodge tool right now. I'm just trying to lead the eyes along a specular motion, a specular line. Just down. Okay. Raise that up and get rid of that bloom. There's just these random moments where my pen pressure disappears and I just get this really thick line and it's just so offensive. It's like seeing a penis randomly in public is very equivalent to this experience. Just random thick brush just coming out of nowhere. I'm so racy today. What's wrong with me? This pen pressure just turns off. It's just an offensive, uncanny thing to look at. Okay, so one last thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to cast some shadows. This light that is really bright behind him is going to cast some shadows. So I'm just going to get darken. Alright, I probably shouldn't talk about that stuff because I know like there's parents that have their kids watch my stuff, so I really shouldn't mention this shit. Alright, cast shadow here. Well, that's how it feels. You know, if someone just flashed you. Oh man, I shouldn't even be talking about it anymore. But if someone's flashed you randomly in public, I think it's gonna feel very similar to a pen pressure just randomly turning off. I don't know. Alright, so it doesn't seem to work. Doesn't seem to want to cooperate. And then casting a shadow. Very, very light shadow because we're not really going to see it in its full sharpness. This side of the nose here, because the light's behind him, we can't really sneak in that light as much as we think we can. We can cheat just a little bit. You can cheat, you know, you can break some rules with the light source and still get away with it. But don't don't assume that that right will be there for you. In fact, you know what would look really cool is just this little doohickey right here. This would be really cool if we cast this kind of shadow. Oh man, that would look so cool. Because now we're really responding to the light source. And again, eraser. Okay, and then moving it along the face. See how cool that cast shadow looks? I mean, that's an opportunity to use one right here. And really just make it pop. I'm going to darken this area some more. Now he's kind of the main ingredient now. And again, these lights that you have in the back are way too detailed. You have massive detail in the back. I recommend you blur it out or something. Since you're going all out realism, maybe you can blur the background just a little bit, just photographically, just so that it doesn't interfere with the fact that he's the main, you know, he's the diva of the painting. We can't really share him with anything else. So Gaussian blur. Okay. Oh, whoopsie. No, this is not part of the blur. This is in the foreground. Okay, over here too. Just these bits. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Just a little bit extra. Just like that. And then finally, I'm gonna just make that last little bit of. Oh no, what happened? Did it turn off? No? Okay. Am I skipping? No, I'd be notified by now if I was skipping. I'm just gonna make the background behind him just a little bit darker. Because the moon shouldn't be this strong. It really shouldn't. Sorry about this really, really crappy lasso job. I just feel like if I lasso at this degree, it won't be so amassed. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So, large brush, soft, new layer, and I'm just going to kind of radiate that shadow closer to the moon. Just like that. Ooh, mama, look at that. Yes. In fact, I'm just gonna just plop Okay, and then erase away. And then again, this is just too big, this image size. 10,000 as well? What the hell is wrong with you people? Okay, so lower that down and then just erase away. And then only have its, humble little brightness around it. And just make this a little bit more dark. Just like that. That last one I didn't really need. Okay. So now he's the main, he's the main ingredient of the painting. He's not really shared by anything. The attention we're supposed to be giving him is not really shared. So me as the idiot viewer that doesn't know where to look has to be guided like this. I have to be told where to look. That's just simply how it's done. I know you want to probably just show off how well you can paint a moon, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to remember that there is a light environment and it's dark. There is one single light source and it's not that strong. And there is one really, really important character that we have to make visible in all of that. So there's all kinds of ways you can cheat. I mean, this could be darkened all the way down, and then we could have a floodlight that casts all these beautiful types of shadows across him. This would be visible. This floodlight possibly might explain why the side of his legs are visible. There's so many things, but because we've cheated and it still looks okay, you're kind of forgiven, and that's it. Still too much detail cluster in the background. The background should not have more rendering resolution of detail and more of a cluster in tiny brushstrokes than the foreground. You simply don't do that unless you want the eyes to stay in the background, which you never do if you're working all your detail and all the real work goes here. But let's take a look at how it looked before, after. Actually, image size 5,000, and then after, and then crop. I have to make it a good before and after. Before, after. Okay, so you really need that darkness. The moon was way too strong. He was really grayed out and washed out. The background was way too detailed. It was taking all the attention away. The background became the focal point. The focal point should always be the main character of the image. Now you can throw in a nice title screen. And it seems like a really, really cool desktop background as well because you have space for your icons, which is typically what we do when we design those. Any questions? That Ista is using right now. I'm not sure what you guys are talking about. Okay. Ignore me. I'm not. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if there's any questions. Istebrak, what do you think about photo textures and concept art? I think they're very useful. They're very useful if they're used right, and if you throw and slap on all that photo texture on the most random part at the edge of the canvas, you're not doing it right. There are some areas that you're going to have to hand paint, and because you simply don't have that time to stretch all the way 10 hours later and finally finish the rendering, and like make your own brush and render that chainmail chain by chain, that's not realistic. So you do get a chainmail overlay. I would get a chainmail overlay and throw that on wherever it's needed. But if there's chainmail on the foot, if there's chainmail somewhere on like the sides of a cape or something, why would they be there? But anyway, I would not put them there as detailed or as clustered as the main areas, which are the focal point. So as you just saw with the Deadpool splash art, you don't share the focal point in any way with anything. You're not in detail, not in contrast, not in saturation. You just don't do that. The focal point gets all the attention. Make sure that make sure that your photos are used in select areas, and even on the focal point itself, there's a focal point in the focal point. and those areas get more detailed than everything else. That's all radial detailing that sprouts out of the most important part of the canvas. If you have multiple parts, you share detail across which areas are most important across the golden ratio where the eye travels. So if you've got a boy and then a dragon and then the light source and the nice leaves in a forested area, the boy starts first, then the dragon, and then the leaves, and that spiral just happens across the horizontal canvas. Always make sure that composition is just organized just a little bit extra because it is one big part of making the eye travel across. These two pieces here suffer from a very similar issue, and this is really similar to what I was just talking about, which is the detail. A portrait is a portrait is a portrait. It's not anything else. You can't have a character design. This is not a character design setup. This is not a character design layout. This is a portrait. And what happens is what we are missing here is detail on her face. I would detail any extra, like any edges, I would add even more sharpness to them. I would again get rid of this light that you guys have on either side of the nose. I mean, all artists suffer from this issue. A lot of artists think it's time to just throw in and share a value word where it doesn't belong. But so detail this. The brush you're using is describing a different kind of texture. When it comes to skin, feel free to use a soft brush to blend. Remember where your edges are though, but feel free to use a soft brush because the skin is very soft. It's very prone to gradients. So if you remember that, you won't have such a hard time. I feel like the light is coming in from the top down. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just gonna freestyle a side light source and come in from the side. So it's a little bit less boring and more interesting to look at. Now with detail all across these areas, I would not let this get brighter than her face. Okay. The eyes need to be way more detailed. It's like this. It's like we're looking at 240p or something for the face, and then we went 1080p for the body, which is the biggest no-no if you're having a portrait. If it's a full body, head to feet, you don't have to make the face so detailed. You can just make the face pop with some extra contrast. But because the tiny little I'm not sure what they are, bolts in the armor are more important than her eyes. That's not how it happens. The eyes are the most important thing if they're in a painting. They just simply are. Even in a character design layout, you can spend a little extra time on the eyes. Forget everything else, but if you have a little bit of extra detail on the eyes, it does not hurt anybody. So focal points are really the biggest issue. It seems with the last paintings, all the paintings that we've seen today all seem to have a focal point issue. Over here, it's just a simple case of the softies. We need to make sure that we're carrying some edges in. So you have some great shapes here. If I look at the navigator, I see a real shape and some real coarse shadows, even maybe a Terminator. But right along here, I would love to see some kind of edge work on the lower part of the eye. Sometimes students like to depend on soft edges to make it feel like a safe environment, and it's okay. It's a grayscale painting, and it's kind of like a 14-day challenge painting, but I would still bring in this kind of highlight. So sorry about the mess, but I would bring in this kind of lightness on either side of the nose, maybe not to this degree, and I would soften up the cheeks just a little bit on the edges here. But definitely keep this sharpness. I would not erase away this sharpness. We need that detail to happen. We need those edges. Edges, you don't have to shrink your brush to have detail. All you have to do is have a sharp brush. I mean, all you have to do is have a sharp edge. You don't have to shrink your brush for detail. A sharp edge will do the work for you. It will give you detail. Write that back to me if you can. So a sharp edge here between the socket, the brow, and the upper eyelid, a sharp edge for the lower eyelid, a sharp edge for the sides of the nose as I showed you earlier, and a sharp edge for the septum, Don't make this shadow here so dark. All the other shadows are pretty light. A sharp edge for the sides and maybe basically the peaks of the lips. And then of course, this whole area, there should be no excuse. The sides of the head should not glow. Unless you're drawing a character that's glowing, at that point you really just have that glow around them, but we need to have this sharp. So work on your edges. Whoever painted this, work on your edges. And then we come to this one. This person here, I'm not sure why they're sticking to these proportions. I'm really not sure why. But these proportions are not human for many reasons. First reason, very, very ogre. So I've seen people that look like this, but when we study a 14-day challenge, we don't study the we just don't study the lack of beauty and perfect that in the 14-day challenge. We don't need a 14-day challenge to know what's not pretty. We can use it as a chance to perfect our edge work, which is really, really good for you. You have some amazing, amazing, amazing edge work, but it's around the wrong proportion. So maybe you're going for that. Maybe you want to use that kind of like you want to memorize this kind of ogre first. You kind of want to learn the ogre before the elf, but I really recommend you get into the beauty. At least paint one day of the 14-day challenge to be a beautiful face. It's a very, very bulky face. It's a very scary face. Definitely a villain face. And I guess it's your choice if you want to paint that for the 14-day challenge. But all around, I feel like this is not intentional. I feel like you're doing this accidentally. And I've been teaching for a long time. I have a lot of experience teaching. And I can tell when a student is doing something accidentally. And I want to see if you can paint, bring in this kind of edge work on a beautiful face before you take it on toward the toward a more ugly, I'm sorry to use that word, but it's a vain practice that we're in. We're all drawing pretty girls and pretty guys. And when we have to draw an ogre, we will draw an ogre to look ugly or maybe look very pretty if we don't know about the beauty standards. But this brow bone structure, this is just really, really defined, really defined. We have to take it easy on these. Overly defined. It should typically just connect to the sides of the temples very, very smoothly. You got rid of the eyes are very, very close together, so they need to be enlarged and be a little bit more distant from each other. And you'll see in a second, he'll just start looking like a handsome man instead of an ogre. It's a very, very fine line, and in fact, it's not even that fine, but we have to be very, very cautious nonetheless, because what happens when we constantly appease to our habits, we constantly forget to tackle ourselves as we tackle form and light, we will work around our habits. We will eventually render really good, but render around our bad habits, and that's no way to paint. That's no way to learn how to get hired by Riot, unless you want to be the ogre guy. And even then, not every ogre looks the same. There's different degrees of ogre. You're still going to have to learn about beauty standards. You're still going to have to learn about how to make the dopey ogre, how to make the malicious ogre, how to make the handsome ogre. How are you going to do that? So if I can just speak in Riot language, League language for a second, I think you're stuck painting the Cyan face. And we just need to see a Graves. We just need to see some kind of male. You can still paint a bad guy. You can still go ahead and stick to the theme that you seem to be really interested in, which is this kind of bulky face. But it's really reminding me of a Cell from Dragon Ball Z, or there was another guy that looked just like this. But I didn't want to, skip this 14-day challenge. I've been seeing it. I saw your first submission, and I was like, maybe he'll work out of that. And then it seemed like you just accepted it, and I don't want you to do that. That's not what this community is about. This community is about helping each other grow, making sure that we hear what we wouldn't hear outside. We hear it there. No one is going to spare us the truth, and that's the truth. I think you need to work outside of these proportions for a little bit. You've perfected it, I promise. Your edge work is great. I felt like I was looking at an ogre. If I saw that guy at night outside my window with like a fucking ski mask and a sledgehammer, I would fucking flip out. Right? You did it. You drew a really scary looking person. Now let me see what you can do with the beauty standards of, handsome or half handsome or what have you. And all the changes right now that I'm doing, I'm working outside of the elf. Larger eyes, small nose, and a smaller mouth. He still looks like a man. He still looks like a man. But typically for the 14-day challenge, we're challenging ourselves to perfect all aspects of portraiture. Portraiture, there's a massive beauty aspect in portraiture, a massive vanity aspect there that we're just going to have to accept for a little while, and then we can break it. We can start working with references, draw more organic looking faces. But the point of the 14-day challenge is to get you to get used to your brushstrokes, used to your dashboard, familiar with the beauty standards, perfecting your edge work and your blending, perfecting the radial techniques and blending, working with skin type, making sure you're painting skin types and experimenting with greens and purples. It's just a great friendly place to learn how to paint a face without worrying about accessories like hair and giving it an original character storyline. We don't have to do any of that on a 14-day challenge. So this face that you drew got better edgewise and edgework-wise, but it really stayed exactly the same throughout all of the days, and you've reached day 10, so this is not forgivable. I needed to kind of jump in a little bit. Sorry, my cat is freaking out. I don't know why. So the distance between the nose and the mouth also is giving it that ogre look. I'm going to just bring the nose down. The nostrils seem to be very upturned. I'm going to just compress them, which makes them feel like they're not so upturned. Shrink the septum just a little bit. Give less of a cupid's bow. Very universal, nondescript U face is typically what you're going for the 14-day challenge. You want to perfect one face that they can hire you with. You're not going to get hired painting this face every single time. The face that you painted before. Also, you've reached day 10 and you haven't tried pupils yet. You haven't tried irises yet. No. I want to see a pupil. I want to see you perfect the shadow of the upper eyelid on the rest of the eye. It's not going to be you're not going to get there anytime. Like, if you're not going to try it today, it's not going to happen tomorrow. This edge work here needs to really happen. Remember, the edge on the side of the nose is so important, so essential for painting a believable depth with the way these anatomies are the way these anatomies combine. It's okay, you can just let her walk around. She's not harming anybody. Oh, I see. So cute. I always show her off on my streams if you guys want to see her. Is the stream falling apart? But I think Mwap is the one who did this. Let's see your next day. Maybe by day 14 you'll just explode, because honestly you don't have a lot of work to do with your edge work. You really have nice clean edges. You had a believable bone structure. This guy felt so real, which is why he was so scary. I'm gonna give him some eyebrows. So I'm not worried about your edge work. You look at the values. You use dark spots where they belong. It's just you were avoiding some things, and I guess it was because the critiques weren't thorough enough. So I hope this gets you back on track. But if you guys want to draw an ogre, you guys know where to go. Mwap is the specialist there. And also, what the heck just happened? Please don't draw a halo of light around the eyebrows. This is why it's just good to try out eyebrows and not just paint brow bone all the time, because we forget how to include the eyebrows in the temples. I would love to see a more skeletal temple. But temple, put your hands on your foreheads. It's just bone. It's just like, you can just crack an egg on it, Like sometimes when I'm lazy and I don't want to move and I'm on the couch and there's no edge in sight, I might just crack a boiled egg on my head. Alright? It'll hurt, but it'll work. It means I don't have to get up. But put your hands on your cheeks. Very, very mushy, very soft. There's a difference between these two areas in the face. That difference has to show in your brushwork. That difference happens when we blend edges and when we don't blend them. So this is an unblended edge running across here. Maybe it'll be a little more narrow, a little more wide, depending on the person's face. But this guy is so bulky. He looks like a UFC fighter. Give him a broken nose, it'll make sense. It'll still match his face. But over here you see this gradient, but here the gradient is a lot more narrow. Probably some of you have like this Olympic vision of me, but I think I just ruined it with that image of the boiled egg. Some of you say, "Oh, thank you so much. You're the best. You're my idol. I love you, Istebrak." And I think I've just, shooed you guys away finally. Just remember me. Next time you guys are too shy to talk to me on Facebook or something, just remember that image. Not repeating it. Raising this value radially. Even the sides of the nose weren't that dark, which is really good. I want to see an upper eyelid and I want to see some pupils. Good job not making these too light. Good job shading them as well. Now I want to do the before and after. And when you hit day 14, I want it to look like this and better. I use a soft brush. But do you see how you technically inverted the triangle? I'm going to draw the triangle. Alright, let me use the hard round. Okay, and I'm going to draw another triangle. Actually, I'm just going to use this one because I'm lazy fuck. Oh. Okay, and I'm just going to set that up right there. So which one belongs to which one? So before, small to large, right? And then after, large to small. That's how you keep someone looking handsome. He still looks like a handsome motherfucker, alright? He does not look like a girl. He doesn't look girly. You can make him into a girl if you ease up on his jawline. I didn't touch his jawline. You see how well that reads? When a boy hits puberty, the first thing that goes is his voice and his jawline. They just pop. It's just no longer a baby. It's just, ugly. I'm sorry. But yeah, the first thing that goes is the jawline. That's the thing that you see first in like a post-pubescent boy. That I can keep. I don't want to take that off. That's good for this face. If I soften it up too much, it might be too feminine. The cheekbones that you drew, which I worked from, are a little bit too high. The ones that I did, you can make them as low as yours. In fact, let me see what happens when I just get rid of them completely. It doesn't really, the face doesn't really suffer, does it? When I add them back in, he just looks a little bit more effeminate. But you know what I've noticed? I've noticed people from Vietnam or the Philippines, they all seem to have, especially the women, they just have these amazing high cheekbones. It's just like, only they do. No one else in Asia seems, maybe that one place, it starts with an M. Damn it, I can't believe I forgot it. It was really close to Vietnam and the Philippines and that whole peninsula, I think you can call it. But it's not a peninsula. But yeah, they just seem to have these amazing high cheekbones. He's just reminding me of Manny Pacquiao for some reason. Like a more bulky version of Manny Pacquiao. So I don't know. I don't know why I'm talking about this. But do you see the differences? I want you to get to this day. A character design employer. Oh, I'm looking for someone to design my character. He's like an assassin from the Vietnam. You're good to go. You just can paint this, put this together, and you'll be able to go. But not before you experiment with dark spots in the eyes. Not before you start learning how to paint some hair. Make sure that the lips aren't too dark at the top. Show us how folds happen on either corner of the lip. I mean, you've got noses down, honestly. Just make sure you don't do that anymore. And you shrunk the eyes, but you also had this amazingly detailed, defined laugh line. The laugh line is one of the first signifiers of age, one of the most important signatures of age. So you're really Malaysia, I love you guys so much. Indo-Chinese guys are so sexy. Damn, I know. And your name is Lola Rue, which is my Arabic nickname, Lola. Anyways, yeah. So before, after. What is it with those guys? Like, if the world should have a crush on anybody, it should be on Indo-Chinese faces. I don't know what this whole Korean thing is about. I think I just lost a bunch of fans just now. I don't have time to look at all of these, but his face does not match his body, meaning that not face type, just where you place the face does not match the body. The head is way too small. You know what? I'm just gonna edit it. I'll make time. So this should go down just a little bit, and this should increase in size just a little bit. No, actually, that's wrong, Istebrak. And this connects back up to that, and then once I get rid of the face, I'll be able to place it back in. Just Hannibal this motherfucker. Alright. Okay, so I get rid of that, and now when we look at it and we turn the face back on, do you see how it kind of didn't match? You really have to get rid of the face and then draw those lines. Draw the horizontal and vertical lines and you'll be able to fit it back in. So I'm just going to do a little something like that. I feel like the face matches the head in this way. Let me see if I can make it seamless so those edges don't distract us. Yeah, he looks very young for that body. The hand is a little bit off, definitely. There is a bit of an awkward, kind of forced feeling in the gesture of the hand, which happens. See this random like pen pressure disappearance? So offensive. It's just so inappropriate. It's like my tablet's flashing me. Okay, so I'm just gonna... His face definitely looks young, and that's mostly because his nose. The nose looks like a very baby nose, and this can happen with guys. I mean, I don't want to make fun of any guy who has like a short nose, but if we just give it some length and some altitude, it'll probably feel a little less like a baby's nose. He kind of just looks very young with that kind of nose. Just looking at the navigator, it's not working. Okay. Okay. Before, after, I'm not sure if that's much of an improvement, but it should make him look a little bit more masculine. And to make him look masculine but still look handsome, you just gotta shrink the eyes. Raise that density. Ooh, that's too big. That's too small. Fucking Goldilocks. Okay. I would also give him some, a wider jawline. And just tuck in that nose. He just seems so happy to be photographed. He's just like, yes, photograph me. I'm sorry. Certain characters become animated in my head. Okay. Just want to give him a neutral expression. But just shrinking the eyes definitely makes the face feel a lot more handsome and a lot more masculine. See how before he looks so cute? And after. And I'm just going to edge this out. We definitely need like this outline over here. Now he looks like typical Calvin Klein male model. He knows he's pretty. He's pretty and he knows it. Okay. Also, another thing that tends to look really cute and overly adorbs is the size of the pupil, the size of the iris. If you shrink that, it will also make him look a lot more handsome. So it's not just about the size of the eyes, it's the size of the pupil and the iris. Write that back to me. I still feel like his nose could be just a little bit more robust. I'm not sure if that's the right term. Before, after. No, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling the nose. Okay. Let me just use this resizer. Make sure the peak of the mouth aligns with the symmetry line of the face. Maybe he's squinting, his smolder. Maybe he's doing like, yeah, I think I'm so hot. California. Alright. So, an improvement, but for me as a perfectionist, is not enough. I would work very close with a reference for these. And after. Okay, so before, very long neck. It kind of looked like he was looking up, but his face was still too adorable. It didn't match his body type. And then after, kind of matching his body type. I mean, to have this massive muscle work, your neck tends to look a little short. Before, his neck seemed to have like an elevation or a length in and of itself. I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna do you a favor and get rid of these ears. Because they're making me uncomfortable. I don't know how to feel. I don't know if I want to say I want to say Oh man, you guys see those conventions with those guys and these like 40-year-old men wearing these I mean no offense to age groups, I guess. Anyone can be offended now. But oh man, they wear these ears and some of them know they look ridiculous, like they wear a Sailor Moon costume, which is like the staple cosplay now, but for the hand, if you want to make it feel like he's holding his soul in a cube, which is such a cool concept, by the way. I love this cube. You're like giving me all the things that I want. You're just basically just making me very happy right now. Um, but maybe something more along the palm facing the inside, and then we do something like that, and he's holding the cube that way, and the cube could possibly sit a little bit higher or on a tilt, just like that. Maybe. That way, if his hand feels like it's a little bit more of a masculine gesture, and the hand feels less small. Okay? So, the human ear is all kinds of. Yeah. Oh, right, the human ear. Forgot. I didn't even look at it. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so what do I do? Alright, I'll just select this whole area. Move that baby up there. And it's because I moved the face around, I think. Because his head was tilted down, so he was looking up, so I really don't blame the artist. Because I tilted his head back forward just to match his neck. He did have the two different perspectives on the body and the head, so that's why it was a little confusing. The ear was a little bit low. Very low. Okay. So, before, after. He looked so cute. Like, I feel like I want to just keep this face, but just get rid of the body, make the body match his face a little bit. And then after. There was some anime con thing here recently. Sorry, are you guys saying thank you or sarcastically for putting that image in your mind? Neck still looks like a thumb. I don't mind the neck so much. Like I've seen these built guys, they just have no neck. Like bodybuilder images. I mean, where's the neck? What happened to it? Like it's, oh Lord, it's gone. Like so, this can't be real, guys. This cannot be real. See how the neck it looks like a thumb. Okay, so enough of this. For all the girls start swooning. I want to come back to my place to check out my cube. For fixing the ear. Oh, okay. You're welcome. Thank you for the human ears. Okay, okay. All right. As someone with a thumb neck IRL, I find that offensive. Okay, so any questions regarding today's critiques? I'm so sorry I can't get to every single one today. I will leave some of these for next Tuesday. The face here just needs to be pushed to the sides. We're seeing too much here considering the perspective. The detail here and, oh yeah, the sharpness there. So I already looked at almost everything. Istebrak, what do you think of Da Vinci's face studies? Which ones do you mean specifically? The grayscale, technically grayscale ones? Images. Are the ones that he's mapped? These ones here? I mean these? I haven't looked at them extensively or seen how they might overlap to today's theories of beauty, but I'm sure they have some sort of correlation with the golden ratio. I'm sure he noticed it as well. He's Da Vinci. I feel visually attacked by those images on Google. What? I'm just kidding, pointing out that he had 4 ears. Oh, right, because of the furry thing. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Furries tend to confuse me too, on many levels. Istebrak, do you have any tutorials for clothing? I do have one tutorial, which is really, really, I guess it just covers everything, all my thoughts about drapery. It's just for, I think it's called drapery, how to draw folds. I think that's available on my YouTube channel for you guys. Do you just choose critiques randomly from the chat, or do we have to email you for you to critique? I was just getting to the links. So if you want to know everything that I do, if you want to know how to reach me, just go to istebrak.com. Right here, you see this little G, this cute little G with the plus. If you click on that, it'll take you to our page. It's got 1,500 members. I don't know how that happened, but it just happened. I love you all. And this is pretty much where I chose everything to critique today. Please don't just post as if it's like a, look at what I did today wall. It's not really a gallery wall. It's more of a, hey, this is my problem. I really want to, I know I see it, but I don't know exactly what to do. I'd love some help. Something like that. Just a blurb or two, a sentence or two, or a blurb or whatever. Just tell us what you want help with, and so that we can get the ball rolling on the critiques. This is a constructive critique page run by me and my friends that helps students just in need of a third eye, just to come in and kind of break the tunnel vision. A lot of people here give amazing critiques. Elgin gives great critiques. A lot of people give great critiques. I just can't even name just Elgin because I read his last. But they all are just as active by posting their work as they are by giving back feedback. They're all wonderful. A lot of 14-day challengers come here to get their stuff critiqued. So if you want to take on the 14-day challenge and really challenge yourself and push your beauty standards, push, not beauty standards, knowledge of beauty, push your rendering power, that's great. That's what the 14-day challenge is for. But you do need a critique between each day, which is why I opened this group here. It used to be a Skype group, but that became irrelevant. It became very closed off. So I wanted it open for the public. I wanted everyone to be able to access the community, and I wanted it art focused. Submits a whole essay. No, Mwap. No, no, please. It's okay. Submit your essays as well. I'd love to read what you guys think about your art. I'd love to see how your thinking process. So it's not, only a sentence or two. I'm just making it sound less like writing. So all those people who hate writing don't have to feel like, oh wow, I have to write an essay. But if you have to write an essay, please write an essay. I'll read it. I think I didn't get how to draw a nose bridge and its shadow. I do have a video on that for anyone who wants to learn. I have lots of how to draw a nose videos, lots and lots. Hey guys, if you say YOLO, I'll post a drawing of a 60-year-old woman wearing anime schoolgirl clothes looking for a critique, of course. I will kick you. I'm joking. No, you're not allowed to post this stuff. Are we allowed to post speed paintings? Rosalinda, yes. But if you have an issue with the speed painting, you're not sure what to do with the brushstrokes or how to control the detail scope, then mention that. Mention what you're having trouble with. It's for critiques. So you're going to get critiqued. It's best to just get ready. Get yourself ready. Hello, Mr. Rock. It's past midnight in France. Bonjour. Comment ça va? That's all I know. I know a little bit more. That's it. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining me today. Stop typing YOLO, guys, please. Do you suggest only drawing one thing at a time or drawing with drawing, or is it good to do more than one thing at a time? Adaze, I will always say this, draw one thing, learn how to draw one thing at a time. Perfect one piece at a time. When you try to take on too many things, what happens is you tend to share your attention with many things. But if you did 1 week just on noses, my God, your noses will just look awesome. Because all of that energy, that stamina that you have for the day, for art, just gets dedicated to noses, and all of a sudden you'll improve exponentially on noses than you did anything else. So I always say focus just a week or two on one subject and then a week or two on another subject, and you will not regret it. You'll be very happy you did it. But if you're going to paint a full body with all the anatomy every day, the improvement slows down. All right, you don't improve as fast or as efficiently. It's best to take on one piece at a time. Learn that. And it's like a car. I'm sorry, incoming metaphor. If you study each aspect of the car and what makes the car function, little by little, piece by piece, you'll be able to put the car back together than if you study the whole car and try to memorize all the pieces together at the same time. You'll probably do a rendition of what the car might have looked like and probably won't function. But if you study piece by piece in the car's mechanics, you probably will be able to reproduce the car functioning, an actual functioning car. Alright, so I'll let you guys go, but before that, if you are interested in buying my brushes, they're available on my store now, and all the details should be there. The video is available on Selfie. Just click on this link if you guys want my brushes. A lot of people ask me for my brushes, so you can't ask me anymore and say, hey, what are your brush settings? I have my brush settings available for you guys if you want to buy them. Thank you to all those who've already bought them. You guys are great. Thank you for your support. And that's it. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.